Okay, so ready for a deep dive into something a little different today.
Always up for a challenge,
All
yeah.
right, good, because, well, this one it's a poem.
Oh, intrigue me.
Well, we usually tackle historical documents or current events.
Right, right.
But this modern poetry, it's it's making waves. People are talking, they're debating it. Some are scratching their heads, some are saying it's brilliant.
Sounds like our kind of material.
It is, and it's, well, how to put it? It's edgy. It's not afraid to go there, to those places we don't always talk about so openly.
I'm listening.
It tackles desire, meaning, the search for something more in a world that can feel pretty shallow. But it does it in a way that's unexpected, starting with, well, let's just say the first few lines. They might make you chuckle.
So we're starting with a laugh, huh?
Maybe, see, that's the thing. The poem opens with these rhymes, but they're almost, well, silly. Geese and trees, tents and rents. And it's like, is the poet serious?
Well, there's always a method to the madness, right? Could be a way to draw the reader in, disarm them with a bit of playfulness before the real stuff hits.
You think so? Because it's a pretty sharp turn. Like around line 16, bam, we're suddenly dealing with refugees, the passing of Stephen Hawking.
Yeah, see, that's what I mean. It's that juxtaposition, right? One minute you're chuckling along, the next you're confronted with these big, weighty issues.
Exactly. And it's almost jarring, like, wait, how did we get here? But maybe that's the point, right? To make you pay attention, to highlight the contrast between, well, those trivial rhymes and these harsh realities.
Could be a way of saying, hey, look around, there's more going on than you might think.
Yeah, definitely makes you think. And then it just keeps going. Like the poem dives into relationships, desire, and it's pretty frank. The poet talks about, different sexual orientations, uses language that some might find, well, a bit strong.
Pushing the boundaries, that's for sure. And I'm guessing that language plays a role too, right? Like it's not just what the poet is saying, but how they're saying it.
Right. Like the repeated use of the phrase hungry for D. D meaning.
I think we get the picture.
Yeah, but it's interesting, right? Because then later in the poem, we get this shift, this turn towards a more spiritual understanding of love.
That's where it gets really fascinating, right? That tension between those two poles, the physical, the raw, and then this yearning for something deeper, more meaningful.
And it's not like, the poet just throws out a platitude about love conquering all. It's more nuanced than that.
Right. It acknowledges the struggle, the difficulty of finding that kind of connection in a world that often, prioritizes the superficial.
Exactly. Like there's this one line the poet talks about chasing the flesh and then immediately contrasts it with the search for a soul-to-soul bond.
Almost like two sides of the same coin, right? Two different ways of seeking fulfillment.
And the poet's not saying one is right or wrong. It's more like, well, a recognition that we're all kind of wrestling with these things, trying to figure out where we fit in, what truly satisfies us.
It's the human condition, isn't it?
It is, and the poem doesn't give you a neat answer. It presents the questions, makes you confront them.
And maybe that's the point, right? To spark that conversation, to get us thinking about these things in a new way.
And notice how the poet does that even with the structure of the poem itself. Like, there's this one part, line 22, where the sentence breaks across lines.
Oh, yeah, that enjambment, it creates a sense of yearning, almost like reaching for something that's just out of reach.
Exactly. So even the form of the poem reflects that tension, that search for something more.
It's clever, really, how the form reinforces the content. It's like they're working together to create this whole experience for the reader.
Yeah, it's definitely not your typical love poem.
That's for sure, but I think that's what makes it so compelling, so thought-provoking.
So for anyone listening, don't just take our word for it. Go read the poem yourself, wrestle with it.
Yeah, see what you make of it, because ultimately I think that's what the poet is asking us to do, to engage with these questions, to find our own meaning in the words.
In a world that's full of distractions, that search for meaning, that longing for something more, it's pretty universal, isn't it?
It is. And this poem, it doesn't offer easy answers, but it sure as heck makes you think.
So after you read it, ask yourself, what does love with a purpose mean to you? And how do you navigate that tension between those fleeting desires and that deeper yearning for connection?
Big questions, no easy answers, but that's where the real conversations start.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for joining us on this deep dive. And until next time, keep searching, keep questioning, keep exploring.
Keep diving.